Adobe is a brand that pretty much everyone has heard of because of their popular programs like Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and of course PDF. But how are they able to dominate the market when there are several worthy opponents like Sony Vegas from Sony and Final Cut Pro from Apple? Make sure to stick around till the end to find out. Welcome to Hari's Hobbies. So Adobe was established in John Warnock's garage by John Warnock and Charles Jeske in December of 1982 in Mountain View, California. They named the company after the Adobe Creek that ran behind John Warnock's house. Steve Jobs saw huge potential in the company right off the bat and he wanted to buy it for $5 million. But of course the two men refused, but investors really urged them to make a deal with Steve Jobs, so eventually they did make a deal. They sold 19% of the company to Steve Jobs at 5 times the company's valuation. They also worked out a 5-year licensing deal with him for PostScript. And with this huge investment from Steve Jobs, this company became the first company in Silicon Valley to become profitable after the very first year. They had a couple of ideas for what they wanted to do. For example, they thought of creating a copy service business or a turnkey system for office printers. But they ended up designing and developing specialized printing software. They developed PostScript, which became the world's first truly international standard for computer printing. This is because they had algorithms that described letter forms in several different languages. And by 1987, PostScript became the industry standard printer language. They had over 400 third-party software programs and license agreements with 19 printer companies. The first products that they came out with after PostScript was digital fonts. They released a proprietary format, Type 1, and Apple released a competing standard, TrueType. But TrueType was more scalable and had more precise control, and as a result, Apple was able to license it to Microsoft. In the mid-1980s, Adobe entered the consumer market releasing Illustrator, which is a vector-based drawing program. Illustrator was actually the result of their in-house font developing program, and all of this really popularized PostScript-enabled laser printers. And in August of 1986, Adobe entered NASDAQ and went public. And just a couple of years later in 1989, they would come out with their flagship product, their graphics editing software, Photoshop. In 1991, they would come out with Adobe Premiere, which would later be rebranded as Premiere Pro in 2003. And over the next couple of years, they would go on an acquiring spree, acquiring OCR Systems, Aldus, Laser Tools, Frame Technology Corporation, Acelio, and many more. In 1993, they would introduce PDF and Adobe Acrobat and Reader software. PDF is now an international standard and we have all definitely used it one time or another. They continued to add programs like After Effects and buy out big competitors like Macromedia in 2005, and this is how Adobe became the Adobe that we know today. One of the biggest advantages that Adobe has over its competitors is the monthly fee that was introduced through Creative Cloud. To get access to Adobe software legally, you have to pay $21 per month for a software of your choice or $53 a month for all of the softwares that they offer. But if you're a student, you can get a vast discount on that and get all the software for just $20 a month. This has allowed Adobe to make their revenue much more predictable and stable as well. Now, the removal of licenses that you can use forever probably pushed away a lot of customers, but at the same time, this is so much better for the company in terms of long-term growth. This has allowed them to actually grow their revenue, and they are the role model in the industry for the most seamless transition from licensing to subscription-based services. Some competitors are following along on this track. Sony still offers Sony Vegas Pro for purchase, but they also offer Sony Vegas Pro 365 for $17 a month, slightly undercutting Adobe's prices. But Apple has still stuck to the one-time purchase for Final Cut Pro, so that is an advantage for Apple. But as for Adobe, this has allowed them to make a lot more money, especially off of long-term users who have used the program for several years. These users will pay more than what they would have paid for licenses in just a couple years. And I do think this does make sense as Adobe continuously updates and provides services for the licensed software, so it does make sense for them to expect the consumers to pay a consistent fee. And this benefits the consumers as well. You can always have the newest, most up-to-date software that they have. Like back then, you would have that license to just one software, like you would own Adobe Premiere Pro 2006 CC or CS6. But with the Creative Cloud, you get every new iteration of the software, which is really nice. So there are definitely pros and cons to their service, but it was definitely a right choice for Adobe. Adobe has an extensive suite that works together seamlessly. From Photoshop to Premiere Pro to After Effects to Illustrator to Media Encoder, there's so many programs offered by Adobe. Other programs don't have such a wide array of other programs that complement them like Adobe does. For example, Sony Vegas doesn't have a photo editing software that goes along with it. Also, all of these complementing programs from Adobe are also top-of-the-line programs, and the transition is so fluid. You can do the bulk of the editing in Premiere Pro, and then add some special effects using After Effects, and then maybe go into Adobe Stock and get some photos that you edit in Photoshop and then put back into Premiere Pro. The possibilities of these programs in conjunction is truly endless. No other option gives you such a diverse range of products as Adobe does, and this gives Adobe a significant edge over the competition. And the Adobe Suite is very easy to learn, and it's not just because it's straightforward. There is a large plethora of videos and self-help articles on how to use this software. Sony Vegas and Final Cut Pro don't have nearly as many self-help resources as Premiere Pro does. Like how to use a green screen, how to remove background noise, how to make transitions. There's so many resources for all of these. And all Adobe programs are pretty self-explanatory. If you dig around for a couple of hours, you're sure to be able to figure out how to do the basic stuff. And you can learn the more complex stuff online for free. And this ease of use and great extensive suite really makes it hard for people to leave and creates great brand loyalty. These elements convince many people to deal with the subscription fees and gets many new people to try these programs as well. And Adobe software is also more compatible than their competitors, and they work on Mac OS and Windows. Now, this compatibility really wouldn't matter for most categories like gaming. If you're a gaming developer, it really doesn't matter if you offer your software on Mac OS. In the creative space, up to 50% of users use Mac OS, and as a result, it is very beneficial for Adobe to offer both options. Final Cut Pro is only available on Apple devices, but you can get it running on Macintoshes as well. And Sony Vegas Pro is only available on Windows, and you can't run it on Mac OS. This gives Adobe Premiere Pro the advantage in both systems, as they are the only other popular choice. They are one of two major options for both operating systems, and this is really beneficial for Adobe. This means that people who have a Windows computer and don't like Sony Vegas will choose Premiere Pro, and same thing with Mac. People who have a Mac and don't like Final Cut Pro will choose Premiere Pro. And this gives Adobe a lot more opportunity when compared to their competitors. And it's not just video editing software. All the programs that are part of the Adobe Suite who have competitors who don't offer on both operating systems gives Adobe the advantage. Not to mention all the people who might have a Windows computer at home and have a MacBook on the go. These people will definitely prefer an option that's compatible with both operating systems. As it is evident, Adobe's compatibility with Mac OS and Windows really gives them an edge. Adobe is a pioneer in the creative space and have truly revolutionized how content is created across the web. This is evident in how recognizable their programs are, especially Photoshop and the PDF file format. Their easy-to-learn software, superior compatibility, extensive suite, and monthly fees through Creative Cloud have really allowed them to become the dominant player in this realm and continue to grow rapidly. It's no wonder why Adobe is worth over $100 billion, as they are sure to be part of all of our futures. But that's all I have for you guys on Adobe. Make sure to comment down below what company you would like me to cover next. Also, if you guys like this video, then make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing if you would like to see more videos just like this one. But until then, I'm Hari. I'll see you guys on the next one.